God bless you. Welcome to the 7,000 Club program with yours truly, Bishop Earl Carter. Listen, I tell you what, things are happening in the world. I tell you, and also the church world. Somebody sent me a clip of the pastor uh, putting the transgender person out of the church. And some people want to know whether that's right or wrong. And of course, a lot of people, they believe Jesus said, and he did, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I'll give you rest." And that is, God invites sinners to come to be saved. All right? The intention is to be saved. In the book of Acts, they were added to the church, such as to be saved. Intentional participation. I come to be saved, or I come to hear the gospel. I come to hear something that will encourage me. I come to church to fellowship. I come to have a nourishing experience. I come to the house of the Lord. In the 22nd chapter of Matthew, you'll find a story where the parable of the marriage. Jesus invited, or he said that the king invited certain ones to come, and they refused to come. And then he said, "Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye find, bid to the marriage." So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good. Wow. And the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, "Friend, how camest thou in hither not having a wedding garment?" And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, "Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of the teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen." Now, the question is, was the pastor right for putting this transgender person out of the church? Was he right? According to the scriptures, this pastor had every right to put this transgender person out of the church. Why? Because he had talked with him previously and told him the standards of the church, that the rule of dressing, or a dress code, is that you do not come in here and you, a man, dress like a woman. Now, he said you can do what you want to do outside of the church. That's your business. But when it comes down to the church, you must obey the rules of the dress code, that a man should look like a man and a woman should look like a woman. So the question is, did this man come with the intention of enforcing his ideology or his agenda of homosexuality, transgenderism? I mean, is he trying to force himself into the church to say that I am just as good as anybody in this church, and my sexual perversion should be accepted and embraced and celebrated, when our ethos, our traditional belief is that if a man acts like a woman, then he is, by definition of Webster's dictionary, he is a sissy. And according to the word of God, Leviticus 18, and then, of course, Romans, the first chapter, says anybody that lays with a man like he would a woman, it is an abomination, unacceptable. And then Romans 1 says anybody that practices such or even approve of such is worthy of death. So I applaud this pastor. You know, I wish Charles Blake and the Church of God in Christ had enough courage to sit William McCrae down, looking like a woman, dressing like a woman. I wish that the Church of God in Christ had enough courage to sit Jive, who called himself a king, but he is dressing like a queen. I wish Charles Blake had the courage. Well, of course, he cannot do it because they know too much on him, because he's a sissy too. He's just a closet sissy, all right? So according to this chapter and verses, Jesus gave this parable that the man was not properly dressed. Now watch this. I want you to know this. Sometimes garments were provided for all guests, and it was an insult of the highest degree to refuse to use the garments provided. In this case, the king, not God, provided the garments, so this had nothing to do with righteousness of the saints. Listen, this man was without excuse, for it had been provided for him by the king. The king sent the insulting guest into prison and torment to pay for his crime against his ruler. This is part of the point illustrated, teaching again the punishment of those who reject Christ. All right. Now, the whole point is that he was in defiance. And watch this, he was provided with, all right, the right garment. They provided for him the right garment. But he's in a state of rebellion. Now, don't forget, the devil was cast out of heaven. Oh, yes, because he was full of pride, and he wanted to be like the Most High. He was not subordinate at all. He was insubordinate. And so the devil was cast out of heaven. And also, this preacher was absolutely correct when he had this man put out of the church because he was dressed like a woman. And it's a matter of acceptance. And I know a lot of churches, they embrace the homosexual agenda. They are accepted. I talked to a preacher, and he said that same-sex marriage couple would attend his church, and they felt so comfortable because he did not, let's say, bash them, and he made it comfortable. I don't think that you ought to be comfortable in your perversion in the house of God. You're part of the gay agenda. You now have embraced them and celebrated them. And silence is consent. Oh, I know that's right. Silence is consent. And we are told to preach the gospel. We're supposed to reprove. We're supposed to, rebuke, reprove, and exhort with all long suffering. And the gospel preached is an offense. It upsets people. It's something wrong with a church that the homosexuals, the homongers, everybody feel comfortable, fornicators. No, we're supposed to preach the gospel. It's like going to a hospital. You got to take the medicine. You can't just walk in a hospital in the emergency room just there for nothing. They tell you to put on a certain garment that recognizes you as a patient. And so when you go to the house of God, which is God's hospital, you have to abide by the rules of the hospital, and that is put your hospital clothes on to identify you as a patient and separate from the doctor. He has a certain jacket that he wears to identify him as the doctor. And the patient has a, let's say, a garment that identifies him as a patient. That's why I try to tell people your clothes identify who you are, who you with, your endorsement, and your attitude, and your mood, and what you're all about. It's a silent witness. It speaks without speaking. It's a letter. It's an envelope of the letter addressed to certain area, a certain person. Sending a letter to New York, stamped for New York. The envelope says stamped for New York. Are you stamped for heaven? Oh, my mercy. So I'm saying that this man, this pastor, should be applauded for making a stand and show you that these people were not right. They picketed, or let's say they protested in front of the man's church Sunday. And the same thing happened, I forgot the preacher's name. He's pastoring a apostolic Pentecostal holiness church in Chicago. I think they have about 20,000 members. And here, a young lady who's a lesbian, she's a member of the church, grew up in the church, and I'm sure the pastor counseled with her, and she knows the doctrine and what they stand for. Everybody knows that a Pentecostal apostolic church, holiness church, do not accept the homosexual lifestyle. All right? But she, in her rebellion, got married to a woman. She's a woman, and she's married to a woman, and come to church, sitting up in the congregation and feeling that she belongs there, after she was warned not to marry this woman or your membership will be revoked. And this wicked heifer, all right, this wicked, rebellious heifer gonna marry this woman and come to the church as though she had not done anything. Of course, the pastor rebuked her, and it went viral. I mean, the pastor rebuked her and excommunicated her from the church because of her rebellion. So God kicked the devil out of heaven. Jesus used this parable, St. Matthew 22. The man was at the wedding without his garment. He was not in the appropriate garment. And he was bind, or the servants, the king said, all right, then said the king to the servants, bind him hand and foot and take him away. In other words, security, come get this rebellious person, all right, bind him hand and foot and take him away and cast him into outer darkness. In other words, Jesus is saying that the king had the right to cast him into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of the teeth. That sounds like hell. The man went to hell for not having the right garment on. And I'm trying to tell these women that wearing, oh my God, these tight outfits and short dresses and revealing their, let's say, breasts, cleavage showing, and salaciously dressed. Salaciously dressed. Salacious means to do something to provoke something in another person. In this case, lasciviousness. And that is to do something to excite sexual desires in another person. And that's why, you know, people like Conyers lost his position as a congressman because of sexual, let's say, sexual harassment, or when you are sexually inappropriate. Matt Lauer, $20 million a year, lost his job, all right? Sexual misconduct. And those women talk about me too, me too. Well, when you dangle a piece of meat in the eyes or in the face of a lion and don't expect for him to roar, then you are not facing reality. That's why the Bible said, dress modestly. All right? Don't dress like you some kind of prostitute, and non-professional dressing provokes, all right, sexual desires in a man. All right? So you need to dress in a way that you represent, especially Christians, you represent the modesty that Jesus requires. So my little message today is that the preacher, the pastor, was right to throw this man that was warned and was counseled not to come in this church dressed like a woman and you're a man. I mean, Charles Blake, Magic Johnson's son, dresses like a woman and he's a man. Charles Blake did not have the courage, all right, because Magic Johnson paid him too much money for him to confront Magic Johnson's son. So I applaud this man. And Church of God in Christ, you all have a sissy and you have a coward, all right? And tonight I'm going to talk about praise the name of the Lord. I mean, another video. I'm going to talk about whether Mother Kelly and Earl Carter should apologize for using her word, her colloquial term, all right, that's equivalent to the word sissy, which is a man acting like a woman. So we're going to deal with that the next video. God bless you, and may all of you wicked folks have a bad day. Don't forget, if you want to support the 7,000 Club, go to earlcarterministry.com. Stroll down, make a donation. That's in your heart to do. We want you to do it, support this ministry so we can continue to preach the gospel. And I have books and videos and also T-shirts that you can go to earlcarterministry.com and order the books and my materials that's on that website. All right, and may the Lord bless you real good, and heaven smile upon the saints. But all you wicked folks, have a bad day. Bye.